This is Michael Woodward, and this is episode 64 of the Jumble Think podcast.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumble Think podcast, a podcast focused on telling the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers. Along the way, we give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. Our guest on today's episode is Divya Parekh. On Monday, we're changing it up a little bit and doing something a little different, so make sure to tune back in for Monday's episode. Do you have a big idea and dream and you don't know where to start? Jumble Think is here to help you. Swing on over to jumblethink.com/contact or drop us a message on Facebook or Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. What are you struggling with? What are your success stories? Maybe you just need some feedback. Well, we're here to help. Drop us a note. We'd love to hear from you. Looking forward to starting the conversation. Now let's join the conversation we had with Divya Parekh. I am super excited about today's guest. Her name is Divya Parekh. She has 25 years of experience that's really diverse. She's worked as a university associate professor, a scientist, a biotech professional, and a global business relationship and leadership coach. You may have seen Divya on BBC, CBS News, IGN, Daily Mirror, Slate, USA Today, The Independent, and so many other places. She's also the co-author of The Voyage to Your Vision. Her specialty is the Zone of Genius. We talk about that and so much more in today's episode. Let's jump into the conversation we had with Divya Parekh. My guest today is Divya Parekh. Super excited to have you on the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing really, really well. Thanks for taking time to chat today.
Oh, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Tell us a little bit about your journey that got you to today.
Question. So, would you like a short answer or long answer?
Either is fine.
All right. I don't want to take up all the time in sharing my journey. I'll just share it briefly. So I started out being very, very curious since my childhood, and I was always looking for why. So obviously I was drawn towards science, and at the same token, I was very fortunate to have been exposed to my father's and mother's generosity towards other people. So at the time when other people may be thinking of, what can I go and get for myself? And don't get me wrong, of course, I was spoiled like any other child by loving parents. Yet at the same time, the seed of giving was nurtured in me. And then as I grew up with it, to me, receiving begins with giving. And as I traveled along, of course, my parents promoted my curiosity, leaned towards chemistry and biochemistry because science always fascinated me, and especially our body, mind, and intellect. Even though we don't talk about intellect and spirituality, however, if you think about it, what is consciousness? There's a difference between when you're sleeping, but as soon as you're awake, you're aware, and that consciousness. So all that parameters and how did the science work? It drew me to biochemistry, and I went into research. And while I was in my job as an associate professor, while I was splitting my time doing the teaching of undergrad and grad students, as well as going after my research efforts, what clicked for me was there were so many students who were lost. They were there, but they were lost. And some students were looking for that connection where they did not have the money, they were working two jobs, and yet they wanted to make good grades. And what I found was that when connection was made and people who were desirous and who were committed, they went from I can't to I can, and I did it. And what an amazing thing is that I found the same to be true even in adults. So it doesn't matter at what stage of life you are, but if you are committed and if you're invested in yourself, you can achieve things. From there, my journey moved into pharmaceuticals in several different roles, working with high science, as we talk about biotechnology, working with live cells. Very fortunate to have brought life-changing medications to the market from, leading multi-million-dollar projects as I led the projects from concept to the release in the market, and seeing the difference those medications made to patients' lives. Felt really humbled. And so what I found was in 2008, when the economy took a downturn, a lot of my friends were walked off at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
And when that happened, here I was, a person who believed in giving. And at that point in time, there were rumors that, my husband might get laid off. So I was standing there cringing in a corner and praying to God, oh God, I hope so that I don't get laid off.
Yeah.
But fortunately, because I had always wanted to balance my family life and career life, what I'd done was, rather than climbing the career vertically, I expanded my career horizontally. And when you do that, you gain experience in so many different areas that you become a valuable asset to the company.
Absolutely.
However, that day something I just could not look in my eyes at the end of the day. Something just happened, and I decided that I'm going to turn towards entrepreneurship. I was not laid off, by the way, but I want to create jobs in whatever capacity I can. And from there, I put being a scientist, you're always planning, you're putting a hypothesis, you're checking things, and if things don't work out, you analyze it, gauge the risk, and planning, preparation, implementation, action, all those wonderful things come into place. And of course, you need dedication. Otherwise, you cannot be in science field because it can be extremely taxing and stressful. So I put the wheels into motion, and in a few years, I established my platform to be moving into entrepreneurship, and then I moved full-time into entrepreneurship, and today I am working in 3 areas. I'm my own boss. And of course, when you say you're your own boss, it comes with a lot of responsibilities. People say corporate life may be taxing, entrepreneurship is taxing. It's how you perceive things. And today I am participating in several different conferences as an international speaker. Then secondly, what I do is, as a business relationship advisor and a writing coach, I help entrepreneurs, achievers, and leaders find their voice. Whether you're in corporate, or whether you're a small organization, or whether you're an entrepreneur, it's about finding your true voice and living your life with authenticity and joy, and at the same time growing your business and having that meaningful and fulfilled relationships that gives the purpose to life.
It's really pretty profound. Let's back up a little bit there. You've worked in some pretty highly focused sectors: education world, science, biotech, the pharmaceutical world. Part of science is, you mentioned hypothesis, there's observation, there's tests, there's experiment, there's, adjustments. You're proving, disproving, you're finding, you're discovering. You mentioned that you're a curious person, which I love. I think that's awesome. In that process of transitioning from a world of observation and study and experimentation into the world of entrepreneurship, how have those tools, those things that you learned in that world, impacted how you approach entrepreneurship as you work with your clients, as a person, helping them find their voice and helping them find authenticity of who they are?
Great question, Michael. It has worked wonderfully because, as I had mentioned earlier, that I expanded my career horizontally.
Yeah.
And when you're expanding your career horizontally, so what you have learned as a research scientist, and now automatically you are in the position of an engineer. From engineer, you are a team lead, where you are doing marketing, where you are also, being a liaison person with customers, not only with your multi-million-dollar customers on the outside, but on the inside. So what happened was just having that innate desire to have a balanced life between my career and my family life actually turned out to be a blessing for me. It allowed my pharmaceutical, biotechnological, professional life to become a playground where I could practice all these lovely skill sets. I could practice those mindsets because, when you're dealing with 50, 60 people every single day, and when you're managing multi-million-dollar projects, there's so many moving parts to it that it's almost like you become a juggler.
Yeah.
And pull different skill sets. And then on top of that, if you have human relationships as one of your primary driving values, it becomes an asset. So now talking about how did it help in my entrepreneurship? And I have to say that entrepreneurship is not much different than living a corporate life. Think about it. In the corporate life, you have the support of so many people. When I stepped into entrepreneurship, I didn't realize that how fortunate I was in the corporate world. And yet, at the same time, in the entrepreneurial world, I found that, okay, I have to wear several hats, and life can be difficult at times, or life can be beautiful at times. It's about the perspective. So it's again, bringing those attitudes and bringing those skill sets. What that allowed me to do was create this unique blend of having the heart-centeredness at the front and center, where I was exercising my value-driven decisions and actions and coaching for people. And yet at the same time, I was using my skill sets from Lean Six Sigma or from my science background, as we talked about, towards taking my clients to success. So think about it, like, if you have a choice, if I may ask you a question, if you have a choice, would you go with an advisor who can make you feel good, who can help you live a quality life? Or if you would go with a coach who can make you feel good, help you live a quality life, and yet at the same time measure your success and take you to profits?
I would probably say the second one.
So that's how my skill sets helped me to become an entrepreneur. And that's one of the keys, when you listeners are joining in or as they listen to the podcast, the key is that when you are ready to make changes in your life, or even if you're transferring from one career to another, whether you're in the corporate world or whether you're in an entrepreneurial world, you can take your existing strengths and you can leverage them and transfer them as you transition into next career or next position. So that's what I did. And I would have matrix, and it helped me to have a clear plan and allow myself to come into that position where I could help my clients, where we would sit down and co-create the plans. We could sit down and co-create their aspirations and co-create those milestones and measurement indexes. And life becomes really very simple when you bring neuroscience, biochemistry, and science together along with the heart.
As I heard you talking, as I heard you sharing your story and the different things that you've encountered, the perspective that you have on the world, one thing stands out to me. It's just standing out very boldly for me, and that's that you are a person not only of generosity, but of thankfulness. And I think that in Western culture, for a lot of people, is a place that is hard to live from. How can somebody, or what can you share with us about your experience to create an attitude of giving and thankfulness and of gratitude? One, what can we learn from that? How can we become that? And how does that change our perspective on how we interface with the world around us?
Beautiful question, Michael. How does it change our perspective? It makes us live a wonderful, wonderful life. I'll tell you, the life becomes so much richer and so much fulfilled just by the act of giving that I can tell you how joyful it is. So talking about it, how can we do that? So let me give you the benefit first of all. Let's say just don't do it for the sake of doing it for somebody else. Do it for yourself. You don't
Okay.
have to do it for anybody else. Because there are research studies that have been shown time and time again that when you are compassionate, when you are doing a kind act, you get impacted to your genetic level, the cellular level, and molecular level. So if you're doing something for someone else, I'll say that I'm just saying this is for myself, I'm not speaking for anyone else, that there is no true altruism. Because somewhere when you talk about receiving and when you talk about giving, they're the two sides of the same coin. When you give, you automatically receive. So for example, I'm going to share, as a business relationship advisor, I help people give their businesses a voice. I also help the individuals give their voice. So recently we released an anthology where I helped people write their book. And as part of the profits, all the profits are going to go to Kiva. And kiva.org is a beautiful, beautiful charity organization. And I don't even want to use charities. My apologies. It's a beautiful support organization for entrepreneurs across the globe, where what they do is they provide the loan, the entrepreneurs take the loan, and they go and they will purchase some stuff. What they will do is they may go to school, and then they recycle the loan back. The loan comes back. And I have been involved in that. I've been writing books over past several years, and part of the profits go to kiva.org. And recently, just few, maybe I would say a couple of weeks or maybe 3 weeks back, I got an email from Kiva that said that I helped generate $1 billion. And of course, my donation was probably a drop in the ocean, but I was part of something big.
Yeah.
So how can you do that? You can be a leader wherever you are. Don't think that giving is very hard. You don't have to give money. You don't have to give your time. You don't have to give efforts. Start out small. It could be, first of all, just simple thing. Look around in your family. Look around your friends. Maybe you may have a difference of opinion with someone. Let it go. Let go of that need to be right. You know, what you can do is just do a simple kind act for your spouse, or do a simple kind act for your children, or for your mom and dad, or it could be community. It could be as simple as, you know, for strangers. Okay, now you may ask, how can we do that? You're driving and let somebody in if the traffic is really, really bad. And you will see that people will wave at you. When you're walking down the street, just give a smile to a stranger. When you're walking on your walkway, or if it's your neighbor, you know, stop by and just ask. It is that simple. And there are research studies out there that show that happiness is contagious. So just think about it, especially if you are a parent. What kind of world do you want your children to grow up in? Think about it, that, you know, if you're making somebody happy, they're going to make somebody else happy. And you are going to create a world of happier people. And when people are happier, things go well. And especially in today's barrage of all this negative media and the social media feeds that are coming out, all it does is it causes divisiveness. Why don't we all come together, you know, united we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah. Well, it almost sounds like, in a way, changing this attitude of the heart can be therapeutic, but it can also be healing. It can bring people to a place of even restoration. You talked about like the molecular, the DNA level, where it's actually, it changes you. That sounds like a pretty powerful thing that people should want to encounter in their life.
Absolutely.
Now, you are an advisor, and one of the things that you work with people a lot with, and you speak on quite a bit too, is discovering your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Why is purpose so significant? And as a culture, have we lost the place where people as individuals realize that they should have purpose, that they should have significance?
As a culture, have we lost? And why discover your purpose? They're pretty profound questions, and I will make efforts to answer them in the short time we have. I'm going to share a story with you. I had the fortune to work with children who did not have a whole lot of resources in elementary school. And so actually what happened was, some of the teachers had reached out to me and said that, Divya, is there any way you can come and help out our kids? They're failing, their attitudes are not great. And mind you, these are kids who are in 4th, 5th grade. They're very young.
Yeah.
They have the potential in the world. So there were probably 10, 11 kids that I worked with. And so the first day we sit down and I asked them, how are you feeling? And as we got into conversation, creating a safe ground, a safe play area for them, most of them, somebody said, oh, I'm angry. I am upset. I'm this. And just asking them in the conversation that, why are you here? Oh, my mom wants me here. Okay. Then going further deeper, asking them that, why do you do what you're doing? Like, why are you in school? Oh, because I gotta study. Then I probably will make some money, have a job. Then as the conversations continued, they said, oh yeah, I do my homework because I get to watch TV.
Okay.
So I sat them down, and these kids were young. Looked them in the eye, and I said, we will not continue if you don't want to be here.
Yeah.
If you want to be here, then we continue. Otherwise, we don't. Because you are going to take you everywhere you go. Wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, that's your home. And you're not doing favors for anyone. So this was in a very loving way, and just having that conversation. And Michael, I could not believe the change in these kids that came about, because they did for their own sake. That became the purpose. That because I want to be me, I want to become the best version of myself. I want to grow, because what's the purpose of life, right? We could come in life, we could enjoy, but what then? There's always that desire in human beings to connect with others. Human being is a social animal, and there's a desire to do good. It is just that, we suppress it. But if you light that desire in people, and if that passion is kindled, I cannot tell you how much of a difference it can make. And that's what I've seen in hundreds of people that I have coached across 6 continents. And then continuing the story as to about these kids. So these kids went from being angry and upset and not wanting to study to, I got an A. I'm like, okay, what is it? Who is achieving here? It's not your parents, it's you. It's who are you doing it for? And they were getting A's and B's. I've not been able to follow every one of them because, parents move away after middle school and all that. But some of the parents I will connect with, I run into them in grocery stores, and they say that kids are still getting A's and B's. So the kids who would be a nuisance in the class went to getting good grades. Not only that, but living that fulfilled life. And as you talk about culture, Michael, I have to say, it's how we look at the world. There's still a lot of good people out there. And so, for example, take a look at, what you're doing. You're trying to bring the message to your listeners.
Yeah.
So if we open up our eyes, if we open up our hearts, there are good people around us. And it's about joining hands and taking that responsibility. That if you think about in the history of the planet Earth, I don't remember if it was on National Geographic or something, some study came through that if you look at the life of the Earth from, let's say, January 1st to December 31st, that human life has appeared somewhere at the end of December.
Okay.
So we are that short. So think about the history of our planet. Think about that you don't have to depend on somebody else to do good. You can do good where you are. It does not have to be colossal. You don't have to go and work as a volunteer anywhere. You don't have to do it. As long as, you could be standing in a grocery store. And if you could acknowledge that grocer behind that cashier's line, who is standing there from morning till night, probably making minimum wage.
Yeah.
And fine, wages might have been increased. People say, oh, they're making the money. But you know what? They're providing you a service. Give them a smile. Same thing with the doctor. And maybe sometimes our attitude is, oh, the doctors charge us so much money, but they don't give us enough time in the day. But do we know that how things are working around it? Maybe their practice is set up in such a way that they have to see 50 patients a day, or the time is limited. They have to do paperwork. We don't know how the other person is living. So if you bring in the now power in your life, which is bringing mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and leadership together, life becomes really, really beautiful.
When an individual finds their purpose, what they were maybe created or who they really are, they find that authenticity. How does that free them up to live a bigger life? How does that free them to live a life of potentials they could never imagine?
Oh, great question, Michael. So here's one of the things I'll share. I'll share one of the examples of my authors recently. The recent anthology that we published and took to a bestseller status. These women had been through such devastating incidents in their lives that I can't even tell you. Like when I read their stories, I cried.
Wow.
Yes. And they never shared these stories with anyone. But yet, when I had posted the Art of Unlearning anthology, so basically that starts out as let me rewind my life a little back. A few years back, when I started donating money from my profits from my book, I said, what is a book about? Book is bringing your message to the world.
Yeah.
And I said, as I'm impacting other people, it is becoming a movement. So similarly, you don't have to write a book. It is how you're going to take your message and make it into a movement. So from there, Make Your Message a Movement took root into my heart. And that became the purpose in my life, that how can I empower other people to take their message and express it. Now, whether it could be as an expression in the personal life, it could be an expression in your corporate life, it could be an expression in the entrepreneur life, or it could be an expression in a handshake with a friend, or it could be an expression with a client. So going back to the story of these women, so these women who had not shared their stories before, because they saw that this anthology was associated with Kiva, where they were part of something big, where Make Your Message a Movement was not about just publishing a book or maybe, as things work out, maybe taking it to a bestseller status or making it a platform to become a seeding ground to grow your business, but it was part of something bigger, where the profits from the book were going to go to Kiva, where they were going to help other entrepreneurs in the world. We will be donating it to women entrepreneurs. They had that sense of purpose. And when they got the sense of purpose, they stepped into their zone of genius and they were able to share stories which they had never done. And so you can see that not only they grew as an expert in their industry, because now they were able to share the story of overcoming such gruesome obstacles and such difficult life, and oh my. But that they were doing it for somebody else. So when that purpose comes in and when that sense of giving comes in, you lead a larger life. And that sense of fulfillment and meaning, I can share with you my experience and my clients' experiences. There's nothing like it.
You mentioned the zone of genius that each person has inside of them. What does that mean?
What that means is that each and every one of us has this untapped potential that we literally bury it behind the society expectations, behind our experiences, behind our fears, behind our assumptions, our biases. So think about it. Let me ask you, if I were to tell you that you have all the chances to succeed, there are no constraints, you have this magic wand, go for what you want, what would happen?
Well, all the barriers would be removed.
Yes. And then what would happen for you?
At that point, I could choose to step into it and live in that place.
There you go. That's what's a zone of genius. Each and every one of us has it. Nature has been very, very kind to us. Nature has given each and every human being the potential to excel, the potential to shine their light. It's up to us. And yes, we can sit behind the stories and excuses, and that's where I talk about the now power.
Yeah.
No means no to excuses, no to stories, no to judgment, and no to fear, and no to putting yourself down, no to negativity, no to anything that holds you back. So it's about bringing that mindfulness into your life where you generate and nurture your compassion for yourself and for your others. And then you go for walk the talk. Then you take the responsibility for yourself. And I'm not saying that our experiences don't mean anything. Our experiences are what make us. And does that mean that if we step into zone of genius that our learnings become small? No, they don't become small. They actually become the fertile ground in which the tree of your potential can grow and blossom.
I think that leads to a really good question. You really talk a lot about self-motivation and mindset. Why is taking that ownership and having the right mindset, that self-motivation, so important on our journeys to reaching our full potential?
So that's a great question. So mindset is so important because think about it. Let's go back to the stories of these women and these children.
Yeah.
They were in the same class as the other students. Yes, I agree they did not have the same nurturing at home, but they were still getting the same education. And what changed? Their environment at home didn't change. Their environment in school didn't change.
Yeah.
Same thing with these powerful women and same thing with all my clients. What changed? Two things changed. One was there was somebody to cheer them on the side. I was the guide on the side. And the second thing that happened was that when they connected with me, that passion lit in their belly. And when that passion lit in their belly, they were able to step into their zone of genius and able to achieve it on their own. Because you can push somebody however much you want, you'll not be able to bring about the shift, the transformation. So as the saying goes, right? You can bring the horse to the water, you can make a horse drink.
Right.
So it's the same thing with mindset, that you can have everything around in the world. So same thing with these beautiful, powerful women.
Yeah.
They had everything going for them. But once that, and these are successful women, mind you, I'm talking about, but once that passion was lit to, okay, you know what, it's all right, I'm going to pave the path for other women to succeed. I'm going to go ahead and become a part of something big that's going to help women entrepreneurs all across the globe. I'm okay to share my story. So what happened? They were fearful. It does not mean that the path is not difficult. I will say the path is always difficult. Anything that you want to travel on.
Yeah.
I don't believe in get rich quick scheme. You travel on the path, but when you come out, at the end of the road, just like as any endurance athlete or an Olympic athlete. Think about it. You know, um, Olympic athletes, they get gold medal. So technically, if you're thinking about it, okay, they got a gold medal. What's next?
Yeah.
Not everybody gets those commercials. Not everybody gets those money, or what is it? It's that purpose. Think about it, how hard they work. It's similar to the marathon.
Yeah.
You cannot push somebody to go run a marathon. So it all depends on you. The mindset is the key in which league you will play. That's what mindset is important for. It decides which league you're going to play, whether you're going to play at kindergarten level, at junior varsity level, or at Olympics level. Where do you want to play? That's where the mindset comes in.
You talked about, those students that you were talking to. You said, their motivation, their mindset shifted, and they had a person on the sidelines that helped them on that journey. One of the things you talk about is results-based resonant relationships. What does that mean?
Yes. So results-based resonant relationships is where you extend your hand with the heart of giving. And I call it giving with grace and gratitude. Because you're in that position to help someone, because you're in that position of supporting someone, when you give, just give. Don't expect a fanfare.
Yeah.
And if something comes out of it, great. If not, that's totally fine. And think about it. So just, I can share one example. So one of my values is to make an effort all the time to give with grace and gratitude. That does not mean that it happens all the time, because I'm a human being,
Right.
just like anybody else.
Yeah.
I have to work on it constantly. So when I come to a podcast, I give with all my heart. I'm not thinking that, okay, I should withhold this information or just give this much information. There's nothing binding it. I want your podcast to succeed. I want your listeners to get value. So when you give from the perspective of helping others to succeed, you sow the seed of relationship, because then that resonance steps in. So Michael, you and I have just met today.
Right.
Do you feel that there is resonance between the time we have spent together?
Absolutely.
So there you go. So there is resonance in the relationship. And then what has happened as a result of it?
There's been, I've gained a lot of wisdom, and so will our listeners.
Exactly. And what have I gained? I have gained the satisfaction today of knowing a wonderful young gentleman who is out there bringing goodness and positive thoughts to people. So I have received a lot too. So it's results all around.
Yeah.
So it's not only results in terms of personal satisfaction, results not only in terms of happiness, results not only in terms of friendship, but this will somehow, somewhere, I say what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
It transforms. I've seen this time and time again, that resonant relationships will lead into results in performance, passion, purpose, and when all these three come together, they form great partnerships, and partnerships do lead to profits and prosperity.
I think we're coming into a season that relationships are becoming more and more significant in the journey of business, whether it's as an entrepreneur, whether it's as an employee, whether it's as a person who is an executive, that those relationships are becoming more and more critical. Why do you think those relationships are so critical in business today?
You asked great questions. So relationships are critical because you work with people that you like. You work with people that you trust. You work with people that bring joy to your life. So for example, I want to work with people who I have got great relationship with. I believe in having relationships that will last me a lifetime. I have partners that I really enjoy working with. And the reason I say that is that, it is becoming more and more important, as you asked, is it's also the turn in the mindset of our generation. So if you look at millennial generation, what has happened is, they like to I'm really appreciative of that in the millennial generation, is finding that balance in their lives. And when you're looking for balance in the life, automatically what's going to happen is relationships are going to step in. And of course, if you look back at the X generation as well as baby boomers, they also had relationships as the bane and existence of their personal lives. So we are the extension in business because we don't change. And that's where operating from authenticity comes into play. So when you are in a place of authenticity, you want to genuinely connect with people and think about it. Wouldn't it be more wonderful to have a business or a corporate world where you're working with friends, where you are having a good time rather than just coming, sitting, hi, hello, bye, get the work done and be out and be in a sterile environment?
Yeah.
We all work to make our lives better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll share a very quick story around that. There was this gentleman, an executive of Fortune 100 company, very dynamic person. And just so that you know, like, I don't know if this is a true story or not, but this is a story that I read in one of the feeds and I thought it was so profound. So he's sitting on the beach and he's working on the beach. He's still trying to enjoy the sunset and sunrise and take some walks and be with his friends. But most of the time they're still in the meeting rooms. They try to get out. So what he does is he tries to find that time in the morning and find that time in the evening and sometimes during the daytime to sit there and enjoy the beach because he loves the beach. So he sees a fisherman. The fisherman goes early in the morning, comes back with tons of fish, and then he leaves pretty early during the daytime.
Yeah.
So the gentleman, the Fortune 100 CEO, asked the fisherman, hey, do you know, if you could go out in the boat several times during the day, you could catch so much more fish. And the fisherman asked, then what would I do with this fish? Oh, then, you could really grow into a big company. Because as you mentioned to me, all these great fishing holes and this fishing areas in the ocean where you can go and catch the fish. And then once you have this bigger company, you'll be the owner of the big company, and think how cool it would be. So the fisherman continues to ask the gentleman, okay, what would happen then? And the CEO says, oh, you would have tons of money. You'd be able to spend more time with your family, do what you want to do. So fisherman tells him, I'm doing that exactly right now. So that's where relationships come in. Relationship with yourself. It's very important to know what you want. And that said, if you thrive in a challenging world and if you want to be a CEO, there's nothing wrong with that. So it's knowing what you want, creating that relationship, just not with other people, deepening the relationship with yourself, because think about it, you spend the time with yourself most of your life, whole of your life. So make the most out of it.
Before we jump into our rapid fire questions, you have you've co-authored a book called The Voyage to Your Vision. You have some other great resources. Where can people connect and find what you are doing?
So my website is www.divyaparekh.com, and it is spelled as D as in David, I, B as in Victor, Y, A, P as in Paul, A as in Apple, R as in Robert, E, K as in Kevin, H as in Harry. So that's my website. And if you go on Amazon and type in my name, you will see the several books I've written on leadership and influence, mindfulness, critical thinking, The Entrepreneur's Garden, which talks about the relationships in depth. And if you would like, I can share a link as a gift for your listeners that you can share with them.
Yeah.
And there are some gifts in there. So I am so invested in listeners that if they purchase the book, The Entrepreneur's Garden, I sincerely believe that book will change people's lives, that I will go ahead and give your listeners a $50 worth of free assessment if you were to purchase it online through me, I would charge $50, but I'm willing to give away that assessment for free just for this show so that you can find out what is stopping you and what is making you go forward, and you can deepen the relationship with yourself. So the link to that is success.divyaparekh.com/the-entrepreneurs with an S -garden.
Great. We'll also put that link in the episode notes, and I'll make sure to mention that in the intro and outro too.
Thank you.
So let's jump into some rapid fire questions as we conclude this episode. What are some tips you would give someone with a big idea and dream and they don't know where to start?
Great question. So the tip that I would give for them is get your three things together. One is the mindset, second is the skill set, and third is the action set. And yes, and very quick, what you asked is where to start. Find someone who's already where you want to be.
Yeah.
Learn from their mistakes. Don't sit and do the trial and error.
What's one change you'd like to see in the world?
Peace. I want people to live peacefully with one another.
Definitely could be using a lot more of that in our culture today. What do you want your legacy to be?
So my legacy, I'm living my legacy and I'll leave my legacy. And my legacy is going to be make your message a movement.
Who or what inspires you?
Nature, people, children, everybody inspires me. There is no lack of inspiration anywhere. Just have an open heart. And when you look around, everyone inspires me because there's so much potential in people that we just have to open up our eyes and see it.
What are you currently reading, watching, or listening to?
Great question. Currently, I'm listening to silence when I meditate.
Okay. Any specific reason why? Or what does that do compared to listening? I know a lot of people when they meditate, they put on some music or something like that, very peaceful music. How is the silence different?
Oh, the silence is different is because I can't run away from myself. I take the time to deepen the relationship with myself. And I know that life is a continuous journey of progress. I always think of myself as highway under construction because, think about it. The highways we build, but every single time you're going on a highway, there is sometimes somewhere something construction going on. And that's how I see myself. And especially as an entrepreneur, life can be busy. So finding that quiet time, bringing mindfulness into my body, mind, and spirit, connecting together and connecting with the universe where everything dissolves and you are the universe and the universe is within you. That really helps me see the world in a different light.
And every episode with this question, what is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
My one dream in my life is to make an impact to a whole lot more people than I have, to expand my reach to millions. That's one of my dreams that I want to continue working towards.
Divya, it has been so much fun chatting with you. Thank you so much for taking time out. We wish you the best in everything that you do.
Thank you, Michael, for having me, and I wish you the best, and I wish your listeners the best in their lives.
Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Divya Parekh, for sharing a little of her story, and along the way giving us wisdom of how we can chase our own big idea and dream. Make sure you swing on over to jumblethink.com, check the episode notes where you can find links to her special offer for our listeners. On Monday, we have a very special episode planned for you. Make sure you swing back and check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss it. Chasing your big idea can be difficult to do. Maybe there's some fear or a question, you're just not certain what the next step is. Jumblethink is here to help you. Swing on over to jumblethink.com/contact or jump on over to our Facebook page or Instagram account. Shoot us a message. We want to hear your questions. We want to help you on your journey. We believe people are created for purpose, just like we talked about in this episode, and we want to help you achieve your purpose. So swing on over, drop us a message. We're here to help you so that you can chase that big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. It has been another fun episode. We want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in. It's such a privilege that you would take time out of your day to listen to our guests and hear what we have to say about chasing big ideas and dreams. Now, I hope you've been encouraged. Go out there and create the world you want to live in.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps. Vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.